in the past and stuff like that. But what I saw was this ad looking for BBW women, and I didn't know what that was, but I called and they said basically it's like big, beautiful women. And so since I had done some plus size modeling before, I was like, okay, I could probably do this. The ad originally said that it was just going to have me like do some modeling, like lingerie and things like that. And so I was like, okay, I could probably do that, you know. And it was $300, and I was very desperate for that $300 at that time. I was literally about to lose our apartment and had no food in the house, and I was just starving and desperate. And so I went to the location in here in Las Vegas, actually. Later on, I found out it wasn't even legal to film and have those things go on here, but that's a whole nother story. Um, and as soon as I got there, it was an apartment with men inside of it and the camera, and they basically just told me to get undressed, and then I needed to have sex with them, and all these other things that were not in the ad or previously discussed even. And I had the choice at that time because my stomach seemed to run basically, or to
Yeah.
stay and get that money that I really needed. And just the idea of my children not being able to eat that day or the next day, just I couldn't deal with it. So I stayed, um, and I did the scene. And the man in the military, this was about 6 or 7 months later that I had met, found out that I had done one of those films. And his fantasy was always to be with somebody who had been in the adult industry, who wasn't saved. And I was just like, okay. And again, I didn't find that stuff out until later on. Like, he was kind of like persuading me, you should do this, it's extra money. And so I was like, I don't know, but I did. And I put out an ad on an adult website for my talents, my services, terms used very loosely.
Okay.
And as soon as I did that, I had calls from all over the place within 5 minutes, just really strange calls, but people who wanted me to go to work right away, basically. And so a week after that, I was literally in California, not even a week, only a few days really. After that, I was in California doing my first, like, I guess, legitimate porn film. And that's how I got into pornography. And I was in it for about a good year and a half before I just came to a point of not knowing who I was anymore. I really became the demonized character that I was portraying in these films. And ironically enough, I even did a film for Devil's Films. So it's a very,
Wow.
very, yeah, satanic industry that doesn't care about human value, doesn't care about life, doesn't care about families, especially. Destroys families, destroys homes, and destroys people, because you're nothing really more than a piece of meat to be used however they want, and then just discard it. And they know that as soon as you're used up, there's going to be 10 other girls lined up coming in the door, because they're so naive, and nobody is there, to advocate for you and tell you, okay, this is really the nature of the beast that you're about to enter into. And I just came to a point of total and utter desperation. This time, just desperately seeking to get out of this industry. And I broke up with the man in the military because of this, and because he didn't know God, and I was just about to kill myself.
Oh man.
And I was literally sitting in my room, just crying and crying and crying. I was so broken, so desperate. And I had a bottle of alcohol and I had a bottle of pills, and I was just going to do it. I had no reason anymore, not even my children, to live, because I didn't even know who I was when I looked in the mirror anymore. And the whole reason that I even, justified getting into the industry was to provide for them, and I wasn't even doing that. I wasn't there for them. And so I just really got down on my knees and I started crying out to God, and I said, Lord, you give me a solution right now, or I'm taking myself out of this equation. I'm done. And after a couple hours of like tearful crying and praying, I got up and I got online and I searched porn help. And that's how I found Shelley Lubin and the Pink Cross Foundation. And just immediately she started reaching out to me in love, and telling me who she was and what her story was. And she actually hadn't founded the Pink Cross Foundation at that time yet, but she had been serving in ministry and helping women for a very long time. And it wasn't even just a few months after that that she was in Vegas with me and had asked me to go back into the industry, but as a minister, basically, to reach out to the people that I had acted with, that
Mm.
I had acted for, the porn producers, and just reach out to the porn fans and tell them the ugly truth behind the fantasy of pornography. And I didn't know if I was ready for that, but because of the word that I did know, and it really brings me back to the scripture, to raise a child in the word, and when they're older, they won't depart from it. That was embedded in me. That seed was already there. And so I just asked God, I was like, okay, if this is what you want me to do now, then just make a way, because I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. And sure enough, he did. And um, the man in the military that I had broken up with accepted God into his heart, and we actually got back together, um, and ended up moving to Texas for a short period of time. Um, and things after a while, unfortunately, started going really bad, and he started reverting into his old ways and really not understanding my new relationship with God and the ministry that I was in. But nonetheless, I kept serving God, and just going out there every chance that I got, to reach people and to tell them the truth about God first and foremost, and then about pornography and why it's so harmful to people.
And we were actually one of the first places you got to speak, if I remember correctly. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was
Yeah.
pretty awesome. So, what's happened since? Because you have since remarried to guy I just saw earlier going across the screen. Okay, and what's God done? You're in Las Vegas now. What are you doing? What's going on with you?
Well, I moved back to Las Vegas in 2012. I was still serving in the Pink Cross Foundation, which has always been a blessing as much as it's been a sacrifice. The founder and her husband have really gone through a lot tremendously, put their family through a lot for this ministry, and I've had to sacrifice a lot, but it's really not about that. And at the end of the day, it's not about me either. It's just about the work that God is doing in and through me. And man, I've had the opportunity to reach out to so many people. God is so good. He's amazing. And my relationship with him is just, I don't even really have words for it. It's just the love and, the grace, the mercy, the healing even that God has given me, because as a consequence of the porn industry, I did contract some sexually transmitted infections. And one of those infections, actually disease, was herpes. But by the grace of God, I've never had an outbreak. I've never had to go through
Wow,
any of that.
praise
So I
God.
really do believe that God has healed me in that way. And just to see him use me, I've been to, I don't even know how many porn conventions to speak and to reach out. I've done various speaking engagements, radio shows, TV shows. Um, I published my own autobiography. There's another deal that's in the works that I really can't
Right.
go into concerning my book, which would be just phenomenal if that comes through. I've done things through my own personal church here in Las Vegas, outreach wise, and different various human trafficking events. I mean, God has even used me politically to help change and affect and implement laws in California to um, create and reinforce laws on the porn industry. Um, and so that's been crazy. I never thought that my life would take a political stance in any way, shape, or form. Um, but yeah, I mean, and just the people, the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that not only have I met, but that have reached out to me online to tell me how my testimony and um, my boldness has affected and changed their life, and not only made them see pornography for the evil that it really is, but to see God. That's huge. That's
That is
phenomenal.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah, and last year I was blown away when I got the opportunity to go to Slovakia, of all places,